more technically might be called isotonic. The main muscle that causes a particular isotonic action or movement might be called the prime mover. Or you might see the term agonist used.
Can you just repeat what the isotonic action is, please?
Just when you have a muscle action where you have movement.
Okay.
A more technical term for that, for movement. Let's say we have the main action of flexing the arm at the elbow. We're considering that action, that isotonic action. The prime mover would be the biceps muscle. That would be the muscle that contracts to cause that movement. Now, the muscle that has the opposite action as the prime mover, we call the antagonist. In this example, the antagonist would be the triceps muscle. The triceps muscle has the main action of extension of the arm at the elbow. It's the opposite of flexion. So again, the muscle that has the opposite action as the prime mover is called the antagonist. And it should seem pretty logical. If the prime mover is contracting, the antagonist should be relaxed. So if you consider flexing the arm at the elbow, the prime mover is the biceps, it's going to contract. The antagonist is the triceps, it's going to relax. Otherwise, these muscles are going to be fighting each other. Now realize that these muscles will reverse roles. In other words, they work in antagonistic pairs. So let's say we consider the action of extension of the arm at the elbow. What's the prime mover then? Biceps contract. It's going to be the prime mover. Biceps then becomes the antagonist, and it's going to relax. Yeah.
So when we're in a completely relaxed, it's not really relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
The triceps, like.
Well, both of them are contracting to some degree. Help maintain that position. Now, again, when I reviewed general functions of the muscular system earlier, I mentioned movement is one obvious function. And again, movement is an isotonic action, as we might more technically call it. But again, remember the body or the muscle system also functions to help maintain body position, where no movement's taking place. We could also consider that to be an isometric action. So an isometric action may be just to help maintain body position. But we potentially could have other examples of isometric actions too. For example, let's say that rather than just flexing my arm like they're showing in the illustration here, what if I had a 100-pound dumbbell in my hand? I'd go to lift up that dumbbell and flex my arm at the elbow. My biceps muscle is going to contract, but there's not going to be any movement because that 100-pound dumbbell is too heavy for me to move. That would be an example of an isometric action of this muscle. It's contracting, but there's no movement. Now, it turns out that muscles can also work isometrically to help stabilize an isotonic action. Let's say that rather than a 100-pound dumbbell that I couldn't lift off the table here, let's say I had a heavy one that I could lift, like 50 pounds. Is that too light? 60 pounds? Or 20 pounds? All right, well, let's say it's going to be a struggle for me. I can lift it, but it's going to be heavy. As I'm struggling to lift it off the counter here, this heavy dumbbell, there's a tendency for me to start tipping over. As I'm trying to lift it. To keep me from tipping over or falling over, muscles in my shoulder, my back, maybe even if it's especially heavy, all the way down my butt and my leg, they're going to contract to help stabilize me so I don't tip over when I'm lifting this heavy dumbbell. So they're not causing any movement themselves, but they're contracting to help stabilize this isotonic movement. Muscles that are contracting isometrically to help stabilize an isotonic movement are acting as what we might call synergists, or some might say fixators. Now, on your list, it says nothing about how these muscles might act as synergists or fixators to help stabilize some other movements. In other words, on your list, you've got maybe one or two, for the most part, main prime mover isotonic actions listed. That's it. In other words, muscle function can be quite complex, as muscles act as synergists to help stabilize some other isotonic actions and so on. So your list is really simplified compared to overall muscle function.